how to change your risers on your Harley Davidson Softail Sport Glide. Catch you inside.
RevelatorAlf.
Hello, welcome to RevelatorAlf. Hope you're enjoying the channel and this series of videos. Don't forget to subscribe, hit that bell, like and share, leave the comments, and check out the website RevelatorAlf.com, where you find the links to PayPal for any support. So in this video I'm talking about changing the risers on your Softail, your Sport Glide in my case here. Now I actually got a 4-inch riser here off eBay, and I got it for a real bargain, less than £35 for all of this. So I kind of saved myself, what, £100, something like that, off a new one. Now I actually got one that's the full complete bar. So there are two ways of doing this. If you actually just replacing the stock, actually you've got the actual head clamp actually on the stock, but you've essentially got two separate risers, so the actual wiring goes through it. Okay, so actually if you just got separate risers, then you won't have to do what I'm just about having to do. Basically you just remove the bars, remove the risers, put the new risers in, and then just put the bars back on. However, because I've got this configuration here, I'm going to have to thread the wires through there. So that means I'm going to have to disconnect the wiring underneath the tank. So there's a few things that you need to do first. So first of all, I'm just going to explain if you're just going to get two separate risers. This is what you need to do. First of all, cover up your tank. Okay, cover it over so it doesn't mark it. Second of all, it depends on the height of your riser. You may need to adjust the clutch length. You may need to change your brake hose as well. So those are two things you need to consider. But one of the first things you want to do is release the clutch tension down here. Then you may even have to take off the clutch cable here to route it around the other side. Okay, then you release the undo the riser bolts, or in the Sport Glide case it's the riser nuts and studs. Just release that a little bit, but don't undo them completely. Then undo the head clamp bolts. Then what you need to do is just then fully undo those, and then slide the bars out and just rest them on the tank here. Then you just change your risers and then put it all back together in reverse order using red thread locker and all that kind of good stuff. Right, but I'm going to show you how to do it with this way. So a few things you need to do as well. First of all, remove the fairing, of course, we know that. Second of all, I'm going to actually have to remove the instrument module and the tank as well to access all the wiring under there. So if you watch my videos up there about the tank and about the instrument module and the fuel purge, it's all up there in a series of videos as well, so you can watch that, or just go back in the archives. Also release the tension on your clutch. I'll show you how to do that. And then you may have to disconnect it here as well, which is there's an awkward little circlip under there, so you might have to get that out with a special tool as well. Then same process, I'm going to remove the risers and the head clamp, and then just disconnect all the wiring, pull it all through, feed it through here, and then put it all back together again with some thread locker. Let's do that, shall we? Okay, because you're going to be disconnecting wiring, best thing to do for safety, just disconnect the main fuse. Do that. Right, out. Get on with the next job now. Next, remove the seat. Next, remove the instrument module and tank. Okay, so with the tank off and the seat off and the tank off, disconnected all the electrics, so watch my videos for that. Now we're just going to release the tension on the clutch. So take off the clip here, pull the sleeve up like so, and then right at the bottom here you'll see this red pin. So you need to push that pin out, compress the clutch, and then put the pin back in. And then you've got lots of slack here on the clutch to play with if you have to remove it afterwards. Right, so we'll leave that there for now. Okay, so the next thing you may want to do is just remove some of your motorcycle handlebar accessories if you have them. Now, before you start disassembling anything, a little tip I would use is always put a bit of tape, electrical tape, right on the edge of your risers, because this is in the central position. Okay, so it will just help you quickly realign the bars afterwards. You don't have to do this. People might say this is overkill, but it just helps. Right, that's done. Okay, so because I've got the solid riser kit for mine, I have to disconnect all the wiring. All the wiring blocks are held here right in the frame, and they come out this big rubber socket here. So you basically pull it all out. There we go. Just be a bit careful as you're pulling it out. You kind of have to rotate it, twist it, and then pull it out sideways. So this is what you have to disconnect and then reconnect afterwards. So it's basically these two wires coming out here, and it's also this group of wiring here as well, like that. Right, before you do anything, get your camera out. Get your camera out, take a photo of it. That's what you want to do, because you want to remember how to put it all back. So if you look here, you can see that this yellow marked wiring goes on the underside, and then this that's not marked, that goes on the top side. Just remember that. Just remember the architecture of all this wiring. That's what you need to do. Right, let me take it all apart. You basically have to, on these clips, you basically have to press one side of it and it pulls out. There we go, all the wiring disconnected. Now I just need to pull through on the bars. Let me do that. Crikey, it's hot today. Okay, so these riser bolts, or studs and nuts in our case, you basically need a 3/4 inch socket. Actually, that was very loose. Okay, so before you take everything off here, just loosen the head clamp bolts. And you're going to need a 1/4 inch Allen key for that. Now, I'm not going to remove them totally. I'm just going to get back to the riser bolts, or nuts in this case, and remove those now, so it's all nice and loose. You've also got the bushing washer here, which you're going to have to keep as well. There we go, that's out. And the nut is safe as well. Now, we just do the other side. Okay, so as you can see, this is a stud, the riser stud that comes in. So this doesn't seem to have any thread lock on it at all. So I'm going to put some red thread lock on that when I put the risers on. Now, something to note here, if you've got single risers, you actually want to have the handlebars attached to the risers when you put them back in, because that adds a little bit of stability when you're trying to do it all up. As I've got a dual riser, one big block, actually you can do it separately. Okay, so that's entirely up to you. Right, let me just all put this apart now. Okay, so as you can see here, I've got the riser bolts out. They're just in there. Just need to pull this electrical through here gently, and then I can remove the bars. Now, there's no rush here, so just take your time with all this electrical stuff. Actually, this is a really good opportunity as well to give the whole area a little clean as well afterwards. Right, now to remove these head clamp bolts. Right, head clamp off, bolts off. Let's put those away and I'll show you what we've got here. Right, so basically I've got the fat bars here, 1.25 inch bars. The wiring comes through there, through the bottom there. So basically just going to take the bars off, take the risers away, and then put the new risers back in. Now, just balance your bars on there, you should be fine. You could put rags on here, but it should be fine. Obviously you've got a risk of damaging any other hardware, but say, you should be all right. Take the riser out, there we go. Now just remove the riser stud from the riser. Now you might find that the nut is stuck on the stud, so just get some mole grips on it and it'll come off really simply. Now that had some blue thread locker on it, so one had some thread lock, the other side didn't, and none of the studs had them. Now the next thing to do is actually test fit your bolts now, or bolts or studs. They should be grade 8 bolts. So watch my other video about grade 8 and grade 5 bolts, but these are grade 8 bolts. Just see if they test fit in there. They do, no problem. You want to wind them as far as they'll go in, like that. Now I am going to put some thread locker on it. Some people would say you shouldn't, but I'm going to do it. I'd feel more secure with that. Let me do that. Just has to be finger tight, that's all, because all the torquing is going to be done on the other end. And I'm going to put some thread lock on this end as well. They've put blue, I'll put blue as well. But actually the manual says red, so yeah. Right, perfect. Now let's get these back on the bike. Okay, so at this stage I really should talk about the bushings in here, the riser bushings. So there's lots of schools of thought here. Some people will religiously say you have to change the bushings for polyurethane or solid metal bushings because the rubber ones from Harley just aren't good enough. I kind of tend to disagree, and the reason I say that is this, because I'm only rising these risers up another couple of inches. If I had really tall risers and I was putting a high load on the bars, then yes, I'll probably go for a stiffer bushing, but these should be okay. Now, I'm not saying in the future I don't need to swap them out, but saying for now I'm going to stick with the rubber ones. The other reason is that actually they act as a bit of a vibration dampening, and because I'm doing filming I want a solid base as possible, hence why I'm going to keep the rubber ones for now. Okay, so the next thing is to do is get the risers and actually thread the wiring through the risers. Let me do that. Get them the right way around, fat end facing forward, get the wiring, thread it through the hole. Then thread the wiring back through the top yoke, or the top tree as the Americans would call it, triple tree. Then put the riser through the top here like that. That's all you need to do for now. The next thing to do then is actually just put the washers underneath there, and then also the nuts as well. But then we're going to add the thread locker right at the end. Right. Washer, nut, washer, nut. Now this is all going to have to be torqued down as well, so bear that in mind. So next thing to do is actually put the handlebars loosely clamped to the risers, and you want to put a bit of thread lock on the bolts as well. Blue would be fine. Right, you probably might be able to see here, this is why you do it all loosely, and that's why you release the clutch tension before. If you try to put full lock on the bike, it's really going to pull on the clutch cable. That's why it's on this side. What you need to do now is disconnect the clutch, move it to the other side of the handlebar, and then you'll have more movement. It's a bit of a fiddle under there with that circlip, but you have to do it. Right. There you go. Pull the pin out there. Now, because I've got these guards on, I'm going to actually have to take these out now, just so I've got room to get rid of the clutch cable. Let me do that. Now I can pull the clutch cable out. Pull the little collar out here, like that. Pull it out. Quite simple. This is exactly the same process you'd have to go through if you want to change your levers. Okay, so all you need to do then is just pass the cable on the other side, like so, and that's going to give you a lot more freedom, and you can go all the way full lock either side, and you won't bind on the clutch cable. Right, let me put it all back together. Right, put this back through, and then circlip goes on. Right, let's put all this back together now. Right, I'll adjust that later, but let's get the bars sorted out now. Right, just want to make sure that all the cabling is all fully through, and now I'm just going to tighten up those riser bolts. Thread lock. Tighten them up. So these need to be torqued down now, so basically you need to torque them down to 40.7 to 54.3 Newton meters, or 30 to 40 foot-pounds of torque. Your choice. Now, to get the torque wrench under there, what you're going to have to do is possibly just loosen the headlight bracket, move it forward slightly, and get your torque wrench under there. But I'll let you sort that out. Okay, so all torqued down now. So basically what you're looking for, is there any flex in there? If there's any flex in the risers, bushings there, then you've got the wrong type of risers for your handlebars. If you look at mine, I'll put things closer here. There's nothing there, so we're going to tighten it all up, do one final check. If there's any flex in there, then I'll change them out on a later video for polyurethane, but right now I'm going to stick with the rubber ones. Right, let me tighten everything else up now. Right, next thing to do is reconnect all the electrical, and look, I've got my phone here with my picture there as well, a few photos, different angles. That's going to help me reconnect everything. Right, let me do that. Right, all the cables are back together. This really helps. So top tip there for, well, anytime you're doing any work on your bike, do that. Sorry about the lighting here, because obviously the light's coming from that way. Anyway, but take a tip. It is quite easy to figure out. I've got to say that. Right, let me put all this back in. This is going to be a bit of a fiddle, but remember, you've got to rotate it and then push it all back in. Got to get it inside this rubber collar as well. Right, in England we would say that is a bit of a faff to get it in there. It's a bit awkward, I should say. You've got to get that rubber seal around. You've got to make sure that the rubber housing is around all the cabling. But it does go, but you just have jiggery pokery about and it does work. Right, that's all in. Now to reset the bars. Right, at this stage, before you start resetting your bar height, because you can change the angle, how close you want it to yourself or how far away, they might come up or down a bit, and before you reset everything, you might have to rotate your light switches a little bit for your own comfort. What I would do is put all the tank back on, put the seat back on if you wish, and then get yourself on the bike, and then you can actually measure yourself up properly for your reach, your personal reach. Right, let me do that. Right, tighten it all up. By the way, you're going to need a 9/16 spanner and a 5/16 Allen key for that. Right, let's put the seat back on and then we can properly reset these bars. Just a tip, it's probably a good winter job, not a summer job. Thread lock. Okay, so it's up to you if you want to put the fairing back on as well. That'll help you visualize everything. That's what I'm going to do. But then I'm just going to move the bike so I've got a bit more room. I can put it upright, then I can reset everything that I need to reset. Right. Now, before you tighten anything up, what you need to do, make sure that you check your brake line and also your clutch cable, that you've got full lock of the bars and it's not interfering with the cable action. Let me do that. That's working fine. Right, now to reset everything. Okay, so the next thing to do is set your bars to suit you. Now, you can have them quite far forward, but if you have them too close, they're going to touch the fairing, which is no major drama, but the problem is this vibrates. So when you're riding, this is going to start rattling against the handlebars. So for me, I would have them just a little bit away, just about a centimetre away, something like that. But that's up to you. Once you've got them in a position that you want, then just tighten down the head clamp bolts. Now what you want to do is tighten the forward ones first to close the gap, and then you tighten the rear ones afterwards, and that just brings the clamp down like that. But the rear ones, there can be a little gap if you need there to be. That's fine. It's just the front ones have them touching, the rear ones can have a little gap. Then just need to torque the bolts down. That's 16.3 to 21.7 Newton meters or 12 to 16 foot-pounds of torque. Your choice. Now just want to check that flex on the riser bushings. They are as solid as you like. I'm not going to change these for now. I'm just going to keep the rubber bushings from Harley Davidson. Say if I want to change them at a later date, I will. I've got some on order anyway, so that's not really an issue. If I do decide to change them, I'll make another video for you. But it's very easy to do it. Once you've got the bars and risers off, you just take the old bushings out and put the new bushings in. Simple as apple tart, really. Okay, so the next thing to do is adjust your hand controls and your switch gear, and you can either just loosen these Torx bolts either side, rotate them around to suit you. That's a purely individual thing, but quite easy to do. Next thing to do is just reset that clutch and then put the clamp back on. So I didn't want to hide this from you, so this is for your information as well. What you might find, depending on how you route the clutch cable, there'll be some snagging or some binding on this side, on full lock coming this way. And I'll show you what I mean. So you go full lock and it gets caught in there and it starts binding. and it's also impacting on those electrical wiring there as well. So what I'm going to do is disconnect that clutch again and reroute it over the top of the handlebars, over the front of the top yoke, the top triple tree, and then route it in between the forks and down. That should work better, but I don't want to hide this from you, just so you know that's probably how you're going to have to do it. Right. Okay, so as you can see, I've got the clutch cable off. Basically what I want to do, route it through the forks there in front of the top clamp or top yoke, top triple tree, through the front, over the bar and back into the clutch lever. Right, let me do that. Right, reset that clutch cable. There we go, no more binding. Look. Perfect clearance there, no problem at all, goes through there, and it's not interfering with the fairing either. Lovely. Right, let's put it all back together. Right, so my bars are set. All I'm going to do is put on my accessories back on, and that's about it. So let me do that. Right, all done. So the last thing to do is put the main fuse back in, and then, well, go live with it. But there you go. I hope you found that useful at least. So there's two ways of doing it. As I say, depends what kind of risers. If you've got individual risers, you won't have to do all the taking off the tank bit. But if you've got a one block dual riser, if you know what I mean, then you're going to have to do as I did. But follow that procedure. It takes a bit of time. Yeah, you do get your hands dirty, but you know, it is doable anyway. Just remember obviously to torque everything down. Make sure you add some thread lock as well, just for added security. Torque those all down, the head clamp bolts as well, and the riser bolts. You're gonna have to relocate that clutch cable as I did it the second time. I didn't want to hide anything from you, so you can see the proper way to do it. I thought you could do it the other way, but it was just binding on one side, which I didn't like. Well, that's it. Don't forget to subscribe, hit that bell, like and share, leave those comments, check out the website RevelatorAlf.com, and you'll find the link to PayPal for any support as well. Right, let me put this fuse in and let me go and give it a test ride. But no flexing on the bars. I haven't changed the bushings. I've still kept the rubber bushings. Also want to see if how that is for the recording as well, if there's any extra vibration. I will, if I need to, come back to it, but at any point when you've got the bars and risers off, you just need to change those riser bushings for polyurethane or solid metal, whichever you want, whichever comfort you have. But say, watch my other video for the bolts and bushings. That explains a lot about it. Right, catch you again. Ta-da. I need a shower.